So if you're an infant and toddler teacher, this is your day or hour. You get 1 hour. This is your 1 hour of excitement. I did my record. Woohoo! I put a sticky on every single time. I've done like 25 or 30 of these and I still have to put a sticky on. I haven't forgotten one time. And if you know me well, you know that that's a miracle. So Carol made sure she asked to include infants and toddlers, because I'm sure if you're an infant toddler teacher, you listen to a lot of that doesn't apply to me workshops. Yes?
Yeah.
Like I can't use any of that information. So now the preschool and kindergarten teachers are gonna, you'll still be able to use some of this information, but it will be much, you'll feel like the infant and toddler teachers now, where it doesn't all apply to you. So we're talking about bottles, blankies, and binkies.
But the good thing is,
yes,
that everybody will actually understand the fact that it begins with infants and toddlers.
Yes, and they have the hardest job.
Yes, because the success, creating
and toddlers
students, setting them up for success starts at infancy.
Yes. And that's why if you're going to have infants and toddlers in a program, you got to make sure that the infant and toddler teachers are strong and get the education they need and all that stuff. Right. Otherwise, why bother having it? Just take preschool.
So they're not going to succeed in the 3 or 4 year old program if the base education hasn't started. And that's why, I mean, I explained that to somebody today. That's where it starts. Mm-hmm. And it's important for everybody to understand that these teachers are not just, oh, you're so cute, you're laying on the floor. No, it's like, no. There's so much more to it.
Get 5 minutes to do that, Carol. I mean, I think if anybody wants the hardest job ever, I always say it's an infant teacher. Because there's not any like, coochie, oh, I just love you. And you just play. It's like, change a diaper, change another diaper, put a kid to nap, feed a kid, change a diaper, fill out a form, change another diaper, put a kid to nap. Like, it's just, right? When I taught kindergarten, if there was any talk of like wanting to get married or wanting to be pregnant, my director put us in infants. And I was so astounded, like, you guys never sit down. And I thought they just rocked babies all day because I didn't know, right? I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I thought, you guys have it hard down here.
Yeah.
Right? And they don't, and with babies, you get them, right? A lot of people say, oh, parents and the parents of these preschoolers or kindergartners. I was like, oh, what about the parents of the infants? Like, if my son only slept on me, he would have slept on me. And I would have given him to childcare, needing to sleep on somebody. Like, just because I didn't know how hard it was going to be, right? We often think as parents, it's going to be sunshine and rainbows. And then you have them and you're like, oh, that's harder than I imagined. And there's nobody here at 5 to take them away, right? I did not remember that piece when I had Brennan. That, Carol, you're not coming at 5 to pick up Brennan to bring him to your house. He has to stay with me the whole time. I had forgotten that was a piece that was important. And everybody wanted to help me at like noon. Why don't you come over at 12? And I was like, I got noon. Can you come over at 3? Because that kid eats every 2 hours on the dot, like to the minute. And I would like you to come over at 3 because I would like to sleep. Anybody have kids? And sometimes you're like, wait a second. They are still alive. How is that even? Right on Brennan's first birthday, my husband and I looked at each other like, we did it. We kept a kid alive for a full 12 months. Yes. And then
Chris is saying that right now.
Yes. Get right. And then the thing is like you keep them alive and you're the parent. Now you're going to have to trust somebody with your 6-week-old baby to also not keep them alive, but to thrive and nurture them and do all the things that you can't do. Right? I sent Brennan to childcare at 4 months. I can't imagine at 6 weeks. 6 weeks, I was like in a fog. I had no idea what was happening. Every night when I put him to bed, I was like, another day done. He's alive. He's probably going to wake up 17 times to eat. The kid ate so much. But He was born with abs. Have you ever seen a baby born with abs? He was born with a six-pack. He never
Mine
had,
looked like a kitten, so.
he never had rolls or anything. He was born with a six-pack. He has like -5% body fat now. So love language is important. That's important for everybody. So it's not just, this is an infant, toddler, preschool, kindergarten, 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old adult. Everybody has a love language. The hard thing with toddlers is if you have a child who is touched by love language, so they show and receive love through touch, that was probably the kid that slept on the mom because they needed snuggles. They want to be with you. They want you to wear them. They want you to hold them all the time. Now you have a 6 to 8 week old baby. You have a 2-year-old, right? 2 years, I still remember being kind of foggy at 2. 2 wasn't my 18 months was not my favorite age. And then now you can't say, well, buddy, you have to go to bed in your crib, because he is now nurtured through touch, and we have to, at least for a little bit while he learns that this is a different environment with a different person, we have to celebrate that and wear the child. Or how many infants have you, Nikki, I know you're an infant teacher, like held the kids and you hold them and they go to sleep and you're like, and you're like, I have to put them down because that's what I know I have to. But the minute they like hit the back of their head on the crib, and you're like, darn it. They might be touch. The kids that like crawl up you, even toddlers that like crawl up you and are like up your nose. The kids that are, or you turn around, you're like, holy moly, you're right there. Look at you. Look at how close you are to me. Wow. You're like touching me all the time. So we have to make sure that we're paying attention to these. Affirmation, that is when kids, so older kids, it would look like, I love you, Miss Linda, I love you. You're my favorite teacher. You're the best teacher in the whole world. So it's the kids that give you all these compliments because they're asking for them back. But infants and toddlers, what does that look like? They want you to talk to them. So some kids, yes, someone saying?
How do you tell the difference between it's just what they're used to and they need that touch?
So
like,
if it's
mom has been giving them too much of the touch.
Yes, right.
And now they're coming to us and it's like, all of a sudden it's like, we can't do that 24/7.
No,
thing.
right. So when they eventually learn that it's a different environment, different person, and it starts to kind of fade away, and you've seen the steps and you're like, oh, look, he can sleep in the crib now for 20 minutes. It took us a month or 2 months, but he can do it. It probably, the touch as a love language wasn't as high as you originally thought. It was just mom. So human nature dictates that we love others the way we need it. So sometimes you get kids, Nikki, whose mom is love language of touch. So they want to love and snuggle their kids. The kids just get used to it because they're little and right, it's nature and nurture. So that mom nurtured them through touch, and then you get them and you can't tell the difference until you've tried to put them down over and over and over. And the thing is you can't be like, you know what, dude, I'll give you a sticker if you just stay in your crib. Like, none of that stuff works for infants and toddlers because they don't even understand that, right? There is a lot of sticker charts and stuff with potty training, however. But so sometimes you can sort of tell if you see that the mom is holding the kid a lot, bringing them in, holding them, bringing them in, can't leave, lots of kisses. The minute they get there, they pick them up. It might not be the kid, it might be the parent.
And,
Rebecca?
Right? Like the parents that like come in for one more kiss or one more snuggle or one more hug. That's probably them. There's some, I had a friend who kept thinking,
how their day was, and
hold your baby, hold your baby, hold your baby, hold your baby. And the baby wanted to be in a swing and just wanted the mom to be there and talk to it because it's affirmation and talk to the baby, but didn't want to be held. And the mom's like, honey does better when she's in the swing and I just talk to her. But I feel like I'm supposed to hold her. But when the mom held Bonnie, she was like, like getting out of her swaddle and sweating and upset. And I was like, put her down. She might not be touched by love language, just put her down. But then you can't ignore her, right? Because she said she wanted me there. She wanted me to talk to her, but she didn't want me to hold her. So parents have that hard time too, is like, I wished and prayed and wished and prayed for Brennan to be touched by love language. And now he's like this all the time. Like he has not been on a different floor than me. Right? I have 3 floors to my house. He's not been on a different floor than me for more than 5 minutes since March 15th. Because he's like up my nose because he stuck to me. And I was like, wow, I wished too hard. I should not have wished that hard. But he was like that when he was little. He'd cry and cry and cry, and I'd pick him up and he'd go, he just wanted me to wear him. And I had to, because I had this information, little by little, made it less and less and less. But parents don't know that, right, Nikki? Parents don't know that piece, or that they have to kind of wean them off, but slowly, because they're going to go to a place where there's 8 or 7, 6 toddlers and 2 adults. It doesn't, right? They're in survival. Keep the baby alive to the end of the day. That's what they're thinking, right?
Well, and
Keep humans alive.
I always say that we're not just there teaching the child, we're there teaching the parent when you're an infant teacher.
Oh, for sure.
Because
and I think you're probably doing that most out of anybody. Is that like, I knew infants and I knew kids. And when I had Brennan, I still was flipped upside down. Still. And I knew what I was supposed to be doing. And I still was like, wow, this is really hard. And then there's a lot of mom and dad guilt, parent guilt when they're little and they bring them to you. And then you feel like the parents have to like you. I think that's less so as the kids get older. But gifts, that's a hard one as a love language, just because, I mean, what does that look like? It usually is kids who give you things. So toddlers can, right? They could draw you a picture and give it to you, or they usually give you like rocks or leaves or dandelions, right? The bouquet of dandelions that are kind of like, but as an infant, you wouldn't really know gifts. That's not one that would come out until they're a little bit older and can understand the giving and receiving of gifts. Service, it's the toddlers who want to help, that want to like wash the table with you, who want to stack the chairs, who are right next to you and you say, hey, anybody want a job? And they'll come running over. Hey, buddy, you want to help me? So I get a lot of people who use that strategy as a challenging behavior strategy. They're like, well, have the kid help. And almost all kids will do it for a day or two. So they think they've like hit the magic button. They got the Willy Wonka chocolate factory, right, golden ticket. And they're like, yes. And then it doesn't work anymore. And they ask me, they're like, why doesn't it work anymore? I said, well, are they serviced by love language? And they were like, I don't even know what that means. And I said, well, it would only happen over and over and over again if they're serviced by love language. The first 2 times it was just new and novel. So they ate it up and now it's like done. But it's the kids who like to help. So if you say help in my house, if you say, hey, Brendan, you want to help me, buddy? And he goes, oh, yes. But all the way since he could walk and say yes, I knew he was a helper. I said, oh, mommy needs some help. Okay, mommy, K, mommy, K, mommy. And he would just follow me. And I said, here, you hold this, K, mommy, K, mommy, K, mommy. So you can, it's hard though, helping wise, when it's an infant, right? Touch and affirmation are probably, and quality time are the 3 you'll see. Quality time is they have a specific favorite person, favorite person. So as an infant, it's like, if it's me and Nikki as the infant teacher, and I can never, ever calm down Sophia, ever. But then the minute Nikki has Sophia calms down. That's quality time as a love language. It's either the smell or the look or the sound or the person or I had a kid that didn't like me at all. I would try so hard. He would cry and cry and cry. The minute the other teacher would pick him up, he'd go, ah, and he'd stop crying. And I was like, oh, and I felt like the worst. And then I learned about love languages and I was like, oh, sometimes those kids often choose one parent over another. They'll like sleep better with a mom or sleep better with a dad. So, and if all the kids choose you, then there's probably something wrong with the other teacher. I'm just saying. It can't be that all the kids would choose one adult, unless the other adult is grumpy. Do you know how many grumpy infant teachers I've seen? I feel like if you're an infant teacher, you're not. Unfortunately, you can't be grumpy in front of the kids because there's no room for that. That's why I think if you want the hardest job ever, I think in all the jobs, it's an infant teacher. And unfortunately, we get paid 37 cents an hour. But it's the hardest job ever because you have to give and give and give. And then the parents are mad at you for things. And then you also have to, right, you're teaching the infants and the parents. And it's just really tricky. It's really, really tricky because you give and give and give, and then you can't be grumpy. You always have to be happy. Because how many people know that infants and toddlers feel the grumpy? Even if you think you're faking it really well, they're still like, no, you are mad and I am out.
That's one of the reasons why I step in when it comes to the families, because you know what, the teachers have enough to deal with.
Yeah, right.
And I can usually be the good cushion and calm them down and get them to refocus.
Right.
And then I'm able to go in and say, listen, I had a conversation with the parents. This is what's going on. Let's try this. So in this way, it's because the parents see something for maybe a microsecond.
Right. And then judge what it looks like in a whole big picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if previous to all of this mess, they would come in and they would see something happen, whether it doesn't matter which room it is. And, well, I don't want them doing that with my child. It's like, okay, well, I'm sure that there's more to the story. So let me find out from the teacher exactly what was going on, because there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if you're seeing just the end, you need to know what else happened.
Right, or just the beginning, or just the middle. And the hard thing is if you take care of, right, I've been a nanny and I've taken care of babies, you sort of have to have the mentality that they're yours, just because that puts you in a good mindset to take the best care of them. And then you have to then split that and say, but they're not mine, but I'm going to treat them as if they are mine. And then what if you have different morals and values or practices or strategies than the parent? Then it's really hard to have that conversation, where it's great to have a buffer come in. Someone you respect and trust and say, okay, so what do I need to do differently? And that's you have to be really humble to do that. But it's better. I think it's hard to hear critical feedback from an infant parent, because you can't take care of an infant halfway. I can't imagine that you would put up with that, Carol, that you would take care of an infant halfway. Like, I don't know if I shared this last time, but there was a program that I was in that the infant teacher used to be a CPA, an accountant. And then now she's an infant teacher. And I thought, you don't have the same, that's not even the same skill set. You work with numbers and now you work with babies. And she was very in the box. And I was like, she just didn't take good care of the kids. She did it halfway. And I thought, nope. And she got a lot
That's why I never became a CPA, because you have to be black or white. It's yes or no.
Imagine, Carol, I was an accountant. Oh my gosh. I'm terrible at it. I'd be like, what? I don't know. Let me use my calculator. I had to use my calculator for like 88 divided by 7 today. I couldn't even figure that out in my head. I was like, wait a second, I'm going to put it in my calculator. They were like, and I was like, it's the pressure that you're all looking at me and now I have to do math while you're looking. So make sure with love languages, you're probably going to see touch, affirmation, and quality time. Affirmation is when you're talking to kids, you'll see them, right? Even babies will look and imitate your face or look at your face or pay attention to you. Those are the 3 you're going to see. Toddlers, you could see all 5. You have to know them and be with love languages, if you're thinking, okay, I guess this kid's surface, I'm going to ask for him to help, and then it lasts for 2 days and it doesn't work anymore. There's no negative outcome to that, right? It's just like, oh, bummer, that wasn't a good strategy for his toolbox. That was maybe not his love language, or I didn't use the right language, but it's still great that you tried it, right? So all the strategies I give you, if they don't come out in the end and it doesn't work long term or long enough term where you could call it a helpful strategy, there's no negative outcome to it. So love languages don't have a negative outcome if you know them and you do them right, even for infants and toddlers. So then the truth about the 3 B's. So adults have the ability to reduce stress and anxieties by filling their own self-care and wellness toolboxes. When we're stressed and having a hard time, what do we get to do? Have a coffee.
Drink.
Yeah, right. Have wine. I heard Chris say that she ran out of a drink. That's so sad. But we have the ability to do something else, to take care of ourselves, or go on a walk or get outside. Well, what does an infant have the capacity to do? If they're stressed or having a hard time, whose responsibility is it? Nikki's, right? Like, she's got to know. I was never good at the, oh, they cry differently when they need a diaper change and when they're hungry. And all of them sounded alike to me with Brennan. I was like, I'm the worst mother. I can't even, like, he's stressed, right? And I'm trying to fill his toolbox by like, okay, buddy, that's the cry when you're hungry. And they all went, I don't know. They all were loud and hurt my ears. I don't know what one was what. And I felt like a terrible mother that I couldn't get it right. So I would just like change, feed, shake, like rock, not like this shake, but like, you know, like rock them. And I was like, oh, I don't know, go outside. Go outside almost worked every time. And to this day, he prefers to be outside. So making sure that children, infants and toddlers don't have the capacity to fill their own toolbox without our help. So we have to help them do it. When they're stressed, Nikki, can you tell when a child is sad and when they're like super in distress? I'm sure you can tell by the cry. And then it has to be your responsibility, right? That's why their job's so hard. Okay, now I got to figure out what it is. Sometimes I see diaper rashes and I was like, you know what? I would cry all day if my butt looked like that. Because it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oof. Or if you gave me squished peas or what is it? Pureed peas, I'd probably throw up on you too. Gross.
I was just thinking today when I was putting one of my kids, trying to put him down for a nap, that I was thinking of you because when he lays down, he fidgets.
Right.
And my rule is like 10 minutes of trying to put him down. If after 10 minutes he's not like trying to fall asleep, he's not going.
Right.
But if he's settled down, then I know he's ready to go to sleep. But for him, those first 10 minutes are moving, switching, moving, switching, moving. He's like trying to find his comfort to fall asleep.
And we do that as
kids.
We do that as
right. I do
as
that.
adults, right?
Yeah,
I can't shut my
can't
brain off.
It
takes me a good. It takes me 15 minutes at night to shut my brain off.
Yeah, me too.
Before I can actually.
And I'm like back, left side, back, right side, back, left. Like I can't do it. I can't like get comfortable. And I love, Nikki, that you've noticed that about him, because you could, right? A lot of people would be like, you got to be still, buddy. Cover. And I see it in like kindergarten kids. I'm going to cover you up. I'm going to cover you up. I'm going to cover. I'm like, stop covering the kid up. He just needs to move a little bit, because he's right. A mover and a shaker. And he probably will be like that always.
Yeah, he's not going to, I don't settle like that. I don't go in and lay down and go to sleep. I, just like you, I go from side to side, move around, fluff my pillows, do whatever till I get to that spot where I'm like, okay, now I can fall asleep.
Right, exactly.
And that's the way he's going to be.
And I love that.
But after 10 minutes, if you take more than 10 minutes to try to figure that out, then you're getting frustrated with him and you're trying to force him to go to sleep when he's not going to do it.
Right. And then if he's frustrated because he can't get to sleep, it's just like us when we're frustrated and we can't get to sleep. Right. We want to get up. We want to, right. How many people after a little bit, you're like, you know what? I'm just going to get up or watch TV or read a book, or I can't just sit here like, sometimes I have to come upstairs and like rock because I have all this energy inside me and I have to rock. And I can't do it in my bed because my husband would be like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just rocking myself to sleep. And he thinks, I'm like, he's going to divorce me. I think I'm a weirdo. So I have to, otherwise I stay in bed. But some people get up, they have a snack, they need something to drink, right? But he can't do that for himself. So you have to be attuned to his fidgeting. And like, oh, it's 10 minutes, but you're probably not going to fall asleep. And getting frustrated with him, it's not going to help. That's just going to awaken more, I would think, right? Make him wake up even more. Because now he's going to fight the battle of, I'm not going to sleep. So we could be the power of one for kids, right? So there has to be one adult that is nurturing and loving and kind and caring for a kid in their life. And there only needs to be one, actually, for the child to turn out okay. See how I put that in quotation marks? Because I think all children are doing the best they can. But we have to be that power of one. And I think in kindergarten, or in preschool, you're like, whew, he's hard for me, right? And it's a little easier to admit that to somebody or to say, can you rub their back or could you do that? Like they just rub me the wrong way. It's different in preschool and kindergarten. If you say that as an infant or toddler teacher, you're probably going to be looked at like this. Like, what? You can't say that? But it's true though, right? All kids can't be easy for you and you can't, I know people always say, I love all children. That's not true. You can't. No, you don't love all adults. Why would you love all children? But I shouldn't know who was hard for you. But in infants, I think there's a guilt to it. In toddlers, there's a guilt to it. Like, I just can't. I am rarely with the infants and toddlers, ones that I have a hard time with. But there's been a couple, like really, really baby, and I'm like, I don't feel the connection. And I feel like I feel the connection with most kids, and I'm like, oh, geez. And then I feel guilty, like, what is it with me? Like, I just don't feel a connection to this kid. How am I going to help the mom? Or what if you don't feel a connection to the kid and he comes from 7 to 5 every day and you are in charge of taking care of him? That's when you need to fill your own self-care toolbox. And again, that's why the job's the hardest, because what do? Who do you say that to? I guess you could tell Carol. I mean, I think if I was an infant teacher, I would tell Carol that he's hard for me. But you can't tell too many people before you get stigmatized, right? So that part's really hard. And I've had a lot of people that I say, you know what? Make it a challenge for yourself. I'm going to work really hard at this and see the changes in our relationship. I'm going to choose a relationship first. And it's hard. I have a hard time with the good thing my son wasn't colicky. I would have thrown him in the ocean. Those colicky kids that cry, that have that ear piercing cry because I'm overwhelmed by noise. Those kids are really hard for me, which doesn't make sense because I cried a lot and I'm really loud as an adult. So who do you lean on? You got to find someone to lean on to take good care of yourself. So, I mean, my guess, I would go to Carol. I'd be like, you know what? He's so hard for me. And I need some strategies to figure this part out. So as adults, we need to fill their toolboxes. We need to meet their needs for physical and emotional safety, belonging, support, nurturance, self-regulation, reassurance. So that is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Infants and toddlers are in the first two. Eating, sleeping, going to the bathroom, right? You probably get them with breast milk. Oh gosh, don't ever feed the child the wrong breast milk. That is a bad idea. That has happened in many infant programs, and guess what? Parents aren't happy about that. If you give their breast milk to another kid, whoo, baby, that's like you're going to jail for 10 years. Holy moly. No one would ever do that purposely. My goodness. But it's the kids who are on breast milk or formula, and then they change to pureed food, and then they change to finger food, right? Infants and toddlers are going through those stages where infants nap. I don't know if I've ever been in an infant classroom where one kid was not sleeping, right? They nap it feels like all day long. I feel like you're always changing diapers, feeding kids, and putting them to bed all day long. because there's always one doing something in that rotation. So we know that they're in the physiological needs, which is your basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter, right? They gotta make sure they're warm enough. You gotta make sure they're fed. I have a hard time, this physiological need I see often, when the mom will say, make sure you feed them, or the doctor said feed them only every 3 hours. But they start crying at 2 hours. How do you tell an 8-week-old baby you're not gonna feed them for another hour when you have 7 other babies? That one's so
Doesn't
hard.
happen.
What?
It doesn't happen because it has to go according to the child's needs.
Right. So I like that you speak up, because a lot of teachers will say, well, the mom said I'm not only supposed to feed him every 4 hours because he's overweight. I don't know. Is that a thing?
I get broad shoulders.
Yeah, right. He's just big boned. He's a big boned baby. But I have a hard time with when they have to do that and then they listen to him cry for an hour. I'm like, he's in distress. He's looking for co-regulation. We have to help him regulate, which means he needs food. But parents don't know what they don't know. And the doctor said he gained too much weight, or he's too big, or he's going to be a fat kid. I've heard all of that. And then what happens? Then people like Nikki have to be like, oh my gosh, I can't feed him. And you can't feed him and not let the parent know, because you got to write it all down because they're so little, right? And toddlers, what happens when the toddler eats all the food in their lunchbox? Then what do you have to do? I'm sure, Carol, you have had to supplement food for parents who don't put enough food in the lunchbox. I went into a toddler classroom and there was a can of Coke, full grapes, which is like, right, that's like sacrilege, holy moly, full grapes for a toddler, and pizza, cold pizza. And I was like, are we at college? And
a Coke?
Yeah, like, yes. I was like, well, now there's too much sugar. The kid's gonna choke on the full grape, or you have to cut them in like 27 pieces, one grape, and cold pizza. Toddlers don't eat cold pizza. So then they warmed it up, and the toddler didn't eat the pizza because I don't know if it, and they came in with something like that every day. So they were still, right, they were hanging out in the physiological needs because they weren't getting the nutrition they needed. Even if they ate the grapes, the Coke, and the pizza, they still don't get the nutrition they needed. That's not a full, that does not go according to the food pyramid. The food pyramid, that says no to the food pyramid. But then we also have safety needs. So physical safety. The hard thing is that you could, and I hope nobody has ever seen it or done it, but you could hurt an infant and toddler and they can't talk or tell anybody. That part's really scary in the safety needs, physical safety. If you hurt a 5-year-old, they can tell somebody. They'll tell somebody. It might not be with words we understand, or we have to like kind of decode what they're saying, but how's an infant? If you shake an infant or are rough with an infant, unless another adult sees you, nobody knows. And that's really scary, I think. So we have to make sure that we are filling our own toolbox when the kid is crying and you can't take it anymore, or I'm so done with holding them and every time I put them down, they freak out. You need to go for a walk or find Carol or trade places. But then you think, I'm not a very good teacher. Right? I've had those moments in kindergarten where I was like, oh, I'm done. I got to go move my car. Right? We had 2 parking lots where I used to work, so you could take your car and move it from one parking lot to the other just to get like a breath and breathe. But as an infant and toddler teacher, you can essentially hurt them and nobody will know, unfortunately. Sometimes, are there cameras in your classroom, Carol? No. So sometimes you could tell by the cameras, right? But an infant wouldn't be able to, if you're too rough with them, what would an infant say? They would cry. Well, infants cry anyway, right? So we have to be very careful with the physical part, the physical safety. And then we have to be careful with the emotional safety, which means we're not listening to the love languages, or they have for 6 weeks fallen asleep on mom and dad. We can't put them in their crib, in the crib that we have at school, and let them cry for an hour and scream their head off. That's actually not good for the brain. I was all done with my son one time, and I was like, I can't do it. And then my husband looked up, he's like, someone has to go get him. It's bad for a child's brain if they cry in distress too long. And I was like, and I know that, but I was like, darn it. I was like, you better go get him. I'm going to go put myself in the ocean face first. I'm going to go until the bubbles stop. So we have to make sure those two are in an infant and toddler, safety needs and physiological needs. Love and belonging too, of course, and self-esteem. But I don't know how you can judge a 6 weeks old self-esteem. I don't know if there's a test for that. I'm not really sure what it is. But they do need a place where they belong. So hopefully when the kid comes in, although I'm not sure how much they would know that they were on this level, but you're like, oh my gosh, you're here. We love when you're here. We've been waiting for you. Come give me a snuggle, right? That you greet them with their name and full sentences, and you love that they came, even if you were hoping they'd be absent, right? Infants and toddlers are less likely to know that you're faking it. Kindergarten and preschool, no. They know when you don't like them. You have to be really good at faking it for a preschool and kindergarten kid to know that, to fake it for them. But infants and toddlers, right? We have to be excited that they're there. We have to use the, oh, buddy, I'm glad you're here. Kind of like that hee-haw, hee-haw voice, right? The how. That is the only time I think in infants that you're allowed to use that voice. I can't take that voice. Oh my gosh, Carol, I'm just so glad you're here. Hi. If you said that to me as an adult, and I've had that as an adult said to me, and I'm like,
I'd clap you.
Right, exactly. I went into another place in Manchester. It was not your place, obviously. But I went to another, oh yeah, you're in Bedford. Another place in Manchester, and I walked in, and the director was like, Meg, I'm so glad you're here. We're all glad you're here. I'm like, I'm looking around like 36-year-old Meg, right? This was years ago. And I was like, or like me, Meg, like the adult Meg that's standing in front of you. Why do you sound like that? She had it for infants, for toddlers, for all the kids, for the adults. She even talked to her husband on the phone like that. Because I walked in and had to sit down and to talk to her, but she was on the phone with her husband. She was like, okay, sweetie, that's great. And I'm like, you sound terrible. Don't. And I didn't, and I definitely didn't feel like I belonged in the environment. I was like, I gotta go. Because I am an adult and you sound stupid. Right. I didn't tell her that, but I tell that story a lot because she was dumb. Not really. She wasn't dumb. She just sounded silly. She was a smart lady. How do I change my state of alertness? So now think Binkies, Blankies, bottles, or whatever we called it. Bottles, Blankies, and Binkies. So how do I change my level of alertness? Put something in your mouth. Yeah. Oral input. Bottles, Binkies, and Blankies. And for kids who bite, they are oral, so what do we have to do? Sometimes you give them a teether, sometimes they have a pacifier. There's a lot of kids. I think even at 5, you could tell who sucked their thumb or had a pacifier too long.
We can't bite them back?
I know, right? Oh my gosh. When I taught kindergarten, I was in was I toddlers? I was in toddlers toddlers. They didn't have infants yet. I was in toddlers. And the mom asked the teacher what to do when the kid bites. And the teacher said, bite him back. And I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea, but I wasn't as forthcoming as I am now. So I had to tell my director, I was like, she said to bite the kid back. I mean, I just started, and granted, I don't have a certificate in education or education. I have a communications background, but I'm pretty sure it's a no. I'm pretty sure that's a no. Right? Because we're role models for kids. You can't bite them back. You can't hit them back. You can't. The hardest one for me, I would never bite him back or hit him back. I want to be feisty back. If you swear at me, I want to swear back at you. And I'm like,
If I bit Lily, she'd bite me back 10 times.
right.
Oh
There are some
God, yes.
kids that it does not matter if they bite. If you bite them, no, I hope you never do, but if you bit them, they were like, what? I don't care. I'll bite you back. And I'll chase you around the room. They don't care.
Yep, that's my Lilibeth.
Yes. And thankfully she won't always be the age she's at. So eventually she grows out of biting. But in the meantime, to change her state of alertness as a baby or a little girl, she must be a baby if she's with you, Nikki.
No, she's in the 1-year-old room now.
Oh, I still think that's a baby. But she needs something to keep her mouth busy, right? Sucking on a straw, in a water bottle, having a teether, having one of the jewelry things. Like, people are like, how do you do that? Well, you have to meet that need for oral, because that's why she's doing it, right? Biting. That's why she's biting, because there's a sensory piece. I'm teething. You look tasty. Some people just there's some kids that look at you and be like, wonder what that feels like if I bite you. And then they bite. Or they're mad and they show it in their mouth, right? It's a self-regulation piece. Sometimes I want to bite people. I want to be like, oh, and then I do this, and I like talk through my teeth. That's really because I want to bite you. So moving, that's another way to change your level of alertness, which means you can't always be wearing babies. You can't always have them in a bucket or a container. They have to be able to move in their space. With toddlers, I think I've told you this story about the toddler teacher who was painting with kids, and she made him stay on one spot and paint like this. On a paper, it was this big. The paper was this big. And the brush, and the paintbrush, the top of it was this big. Like the bristles, she was so excited she found a paintbrush this big. But that's the size of the paper. And I thought, what? And then they couldn't choose the color of their paint. But the kid didn't ever move. And I was like, you need to put butcher paper on this whole table and let them move and groove and walk around. And they were like, then their paint's gonna get on the floor. Yeah, you work with toddlers. Paint's always getting on the floor. On themselves, probably in their eyeball, up their nose, in their ears. They're probably gonna eat some. I hope it's non-toxic. Like, painting with toddlers is an adventure. I remember when I taught kindergarten, they were painting with the babies in the infant room. And they're right, there has to be a fire drill every month. I don't know if that's still the rule, but with us, it was the rule. And they had the fire drill during the infant painting session. And all the teachers had to pick them up and bring them outside, and all the teachers had green paint all over them. They didn't love that. Do you still have to pull a fire drill when the kids are sleeping? One a year or one every 6 months or something?
Oh no, one a month.
When they're sleeping?
Oh, when they're sleeping, no. I don't know if that's a requirement anymore.
It used to be, because my boss said we have to get one sleeping, and you're not supposed to tell everybody. And I was like, we're all mad at you if you don't tell us when it's the sleeping one. Just so you know, we're all mad at you. And she was like, not supposed to tell you. So she would just come upstairs and say like give us like code for there's a fire drill and the kids are sleeping. Have you ever tried to get kids out of a fire escape who were sleeping at 5 years old? At least with babies, you could like stick them in a crib and wheel them somewhere or something. I don't know. 5-year-olds, we were trying to like carry them all, lead them on our backs and our heads and our flipped upside down. It was terrible. I hated that day. But I think we had to do it maybe once every 6 months or once a year. But we hated it. Touch, right? We have to go over that because that's a love language. But see how move and touch are the fundamental senses? We have to make sure that we do those two things for infants and toddlers. Which means, right, sometimes you gotta like take arms and legs of infants and toddlers and move them and let them have tummy time and have them roll over and make sure they're safe doing that. We have to set up environments where that's allowed and safe. Visual input. So right, there should be interesting things, even in the toddler program. I've been in some toddler programs. I was like, why is there nothing interesting to look at in here? There's nothing on the walls. There's nothing no artwork, no pictures, nothing. Like, what are the kids looking at? There should still be family trees and infants, and they should still be able to go up to them and talk, and you could talk to them about, they can't tell you, and you probably can't tell, but they still recognize their mom in a picture. But I see a lot of infant programs that are sad looking. There's not a lot in there. I don't know, some infant programs are so tiny. I've been in one, I was like, I don't know how, what? It was so small, and they were like, well, the kids don't really move. That doesn't matter. The kid still feels caged, even though he's little. So we have to make sure that there's fun things, like good textures to feel and look at, good things to listen to, right? That's the next one. Good things to touch. There should be fun things and textured things to touch. Toys that could go in the mouth, right? I mean, I've been in some programs too that are like, you know what? You can't put that in your mouth. And I was like, you are teaching the wrong age. Because doesn't infant and toddlers, don't you guys have a bucket of toys by the end of the day that needs to be bleached? And oh my gosh, I feel like it has to be full.
All the time.
Right. And then it's like doing dishes, right? You just do the toys, which is probably right now not real fun with the COVID.
No.
Oh gosh. Because you can't just, right? I've seen sometimes, and I'm sure I did it in infants or toddlers, like you just take it and you're like, whoops, and you kind of like wash it off on your shirt, and you're like, and just put it back in the pile. But now, you definitely can't do that now.
No, you can't do that.
No, nope.
Ew.
You can, but then I'm not a germaphobe, so I always just think it's okay, and it's probably not okay. So that's why I don't teach infants or toddlers. So healthy development of the brain goes from primitive to complex. And the three things that you need to get from primitive to complex is, the first one is responsive nurturing. A child cries. What am I going to do when a child cries? I'm going to go see what they need. Like Nikki said, you only keep the kid in there fidgeting for 10 minutes because then it's not responsive nurturing. You can't keep them in there for an hour. You can't keep them crying for an hour or being, upset for an hour. Responsive nurturing means, oh, I hear ya. Oh no, do I have the hiccups? Oh, what's that? Oh, someone getting a phone call? Darn. Trying to stop the hiccups so I don't spend the next 12 minutes hiccuping. So we have to be responsive nurturers, which I think we are, for sure. But that means responsive nurturers for everybody, even the kids that are hard for you, right? We've talked about that. We have to make sure that when a child cries, when a child in toddlers, sometimes I think when a toddler's in distress. They don't necessarily have to use words, right? For me, it was easier to find out that the child was in distress when they were a toddler because the cry was different. I had a hard time in infants telling, but in toddlers, I kind of caught on a little bit. The second thing to move from the brain from primitive to complex is the avoidance of stress. So avoidance of stress for us so we can best take care of the kids. The avoidance of stress for kids, which means you need a responsive nurturer. And then the presence of secure emotional relationships where I'm going to be here no matter what. And I see that you're crying. We don't say things like, I see this all the time. When a child falls or cries, you're okay. No, they're not okay. They're crying. That's why you cry, because you're not okay. That's how it goes, right? That's why we cry. Has anybody cried like ugly cry and you're like, I'm okay? And everybody should be like, you're not, that's not true. You're not okay at all. Why are you crying like that? Or I'm a child might fall and you think that was fine, you're fine. Or you hear, I'll give you something to cry about, right? Or a child has big emotions and we're not there to understand them, right? I mean, kids don't understand how to regulate their emotions. Anybody know adults that can't regulate their emotions?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Oh my goodness. But kids especially can't regulate their emotions, and we can teach them, but I promise you, if you're an infant and toddler teacher and you're trying to teach emotions regulation, it might not even happen. It's not going to happen fully till they're 30 something, but you're not going to see a big stretch till they're like in kindergarten. But like Carol said, you are the seed planters. You have to plant the seeds so the kids can grow and flourish as they get older. If we're not willing to plant the seeds, which means then we have to talk to them, we have to water them, we have to put them in sunlight, right? If you're going to plant the seed, you would then have to nurture them to growth, which means you have to be a responsive nurturer. You have to have them avoid stress, right? You have to help them do that. And you have to be a secure emotional relationship. You have to have one. And you don't get less, you don't get a free card or a get out of jail card free when you're a preschool and kindergarten teacher, but it's different when you're an infant and toddler teacher. Those have to be done. And if you don't want to, or they're hard, or you don't have patience for them, or you say, Meg, you're crazy, then you shouldn't be an infant and toddler teacher. It takes special people to do that, which means you have to have those three. Otherwise, you're not getting to the complex brain, and the complex brain is needed, obviously. No one wants to stay in their primitive brain. I wouldn't think. So how can we as teachers help children and parents with this attachment piece? So like somebody said at the beginning, is we're just not teaching the infants. We also have to teach the parents, because if you're a parent of if you're a scientist and a website designer, you got married and had a kid, and now you're there in childcare, you don't know. You just don't know what you don't know. You have no idea. You're not in education. You don't know how this works. You know you have to pay on Fridays or give Carol a check, but otherwise it's like they're putting all their trust in us. So how do we talk to the parents? And again, it has that little bit of a blind spot that you take best care of babies when you act as if they are yours, but you can't really act as if they are yours because then the parents get jealous, right? So there's that, oh. So how do you talk to the parents? With kindergarten, you don't want to talk in front of the kid. But I swear infants smell them the minute they get in. Toddlers smell them the minute they come in the building. They're like, what? My mom's here. Kindergarten always tells on you. Hi, Meg, your mom's here. And the poor mom's like, I just wanted to watch them play or have a minute. But they always tell on, right? They do that in kindergarten all the time. They tell on each other. How do we give them information, right? So only some parents read the information. And then you get, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know we didn't have school today. I didn't know there wasn't school. And you're like, what? So how do you tell it differently, I don't know, to an infant and toddler parent? They're probably have less marbles than maybe a preschool kindergarten parent because they're new parents maybe. Or even if they've gone through it the second time is always a little different because there isn't just one kid. Right now you're one-on-one, right? And if it's the third one, now you have to get used to zone defense, right? In basketball, you have to get used to zone defense and not just one-on-one. So how do we support the attachment of these items, of this stuff in the classroom, right? There has to be pictures of the parents. It would be fun if there's laminated books. There's, I know some programs that have those audiobooks that the parents read so the kids can listen to the book, or you can show the kid the book and it has the parent's voice in it. Can infants have a mom, instead of a blankie, have like a mom's t-shirt? Like different things to support that attachment piece, because they don't understand mom has to go to work and now there's a new caregiver. Toddlers barely understand that. Infants definitely don't understand that. So you've changed the environment, you've changed the caregiver, and they've only been on the earth 8 weeks. Like, they don't know. Do you take them at 8 weeks or 6 weeks, Carol?
I'm sorry?
Do you take kids at 8 weeks or 6 weeks? Babies.
6 weeks.
I remember having such a hard time with Brennan. I was like, who takes babies at 2 weeks? Anybody? Can I sign up somebody at 2 weeks? I'll pay double if I could sign up the kid for 2 weeks. Holy moly.
One of the best compliments I got, Meg, in I've been doing this for 30 years,
Wow, good for you.
was one of my parents said, you know what? You're Mama Day and I'm Mama Night.
Oh. Did you
And
cry?
to
I want to
this
cry just
day,
hearing that right now.
to this day, he only knows me as Mama Day.
Oh. Is that
He
what
doesn't
called
know
you?
me
Like,
as
as he got
Nikki.
older?
Huh?
Is that what he called you?
Yeah, he's 8.
Oh.
And I'm Mama Day and she's Mama Night.
And that's true,
Other
right?
people have said I'm Mrs. Doubtfire
Let me see. Oh,
Clearly.
Mrs. Doubtfire is awesome.
or Mary Poppins.
Also, you
Oh,
Google.
I've been called Mary Poppins before too. And Pollyanna and Care Bear. And the Care
Yeah,
Bear.
and I got those.
Oh,
But
well,
the Mama Day
I
and the
think you
Mama
need those
Night,
with older kids, yeah.
the Mama
Yeah.
Day and the Mama Night are the best.
Oh, that's so awesome. And then, but then you also have to have the part like Mama Day and Mama Night, but Mama Night's the real mama. So we're the second caregiver. So you must do a really good job at making sure that you don't take over Mama Night's job, right?
Oh yeah.
You just have to be Mama Day. But some people get into this profession because they love babies, but then sometimes too much. Sometimes I'm like, woo, take a step back. And it's hard when it's a baby. I think it's way harder as a baby and a toddler than it is when they're 5 or 8, for sure. To treat
The
them
good
as,
part
as
is
they're
that-
your own.
At my age, I'm a grandmother. So
Right.
I
So you're
look like a
stuck-
grandmother. I'm a grandmother.
Right. That's probably easier, actually. And then the people who are infant teachers but don't have infants, or toddlers and have not had infants or toddlers, like of their own that they have to keep forever, there's just a piece missing. And you can't do anything about it unless you have an infant or toddler. I don't say go and get pregnant. I'm just saying that there's a piece missing that you have to be aware of. And taking care of all kids, but I think especially infants and toddlers. There is that piece missing. You just are like, oh, I judge so much when I taught kindergarten, but if you asked me, I would have said no. And then I became a parent and I was like, wow, I was mean to a lot of those parents in my head. And now I understand because I am holding Brennan on my lap while I'm going to the bathroom. And I always judge parents for that. Like, just close the door. You can, because you can't go pee or poop with kid out the door going, Mommy, Mommy, with their little fingers under. You can't. Focus and do what you need to do. Oh my goodness. We're going to make it, guys. 2 minutes. Can you believe it? I got through the whole thing. Oh, I did. I got through the whole thing. Wait, did I do the whole? Wait, I might have not done this one. No, I didn't finish this one. I got so excited I went to the next one. So how do we sit with our own thoughts about blankets, bottles, blankets, and binkies without judgment, rejection, and manipulation? So a lot of, and I talk about this because there's a lot of adults that think they come in and you have to put your special item or your blankie in your cubby. Why? And some people like, you can have it for a little bit and then it needs to go away. Or you can't have your binky here. So you have to like make sure you're on the same page with the parent, and then what are the regulations and rules, and then what are your regulations and rules. And so you just have to sit with your own thoughts on that. Because a lot of people do ghosts of the nursery, which is, I'm going to, right? So my son wasn't allowed to have binkies past the age of 3. So why does this 4-year-old still have a binky? And then you didn't sit with your own thoughts. Like, is it a family thing? Do they have the information they need? Do they know that it's bad for the teeth? Usually dentists speak up about it. But what sort of conversation can you have without judging, right? Because anybody have taken a binky away from a kid? Whew, that is not pretty. It's not pretty. Especially if they're little, like for you, Nikki. Yikes. Right? Like, no, and rejection, manipulation, like, oh, he always has a binky. Well, yeah, he probably gets it at home, and you know what? You probably get it at home because it's easier for mom and dad. I get it. They come home at 5. They have to do baths and eat food and go to bed, and it's just easier if the binky's in. And then what happens? Then you have to take the binky away. But how do you take a binky away from a baby or from a toddler? They don't have much fun to fight over. They'll fight over that. There's not a lot going on in their world and their binkies their thing, or their blankies their thing, or their bottles their thing. People who have like had bottles for way too long. It doesn't help if we judge them, if we reject them, and if we try to manipulate them out of it. You just have to understand that the parents are doing sometimes what's the easiest. How many people as a parent have done things that is easy, although if someone else knew, they would judge you? Me, I've done it. I'm a behavior person. So I know, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would so be judged. I still at 8 years old dress my son in the morning in bed and carry him downstairs.
Well, when you're talking about, the pacifiers and that stuff.
Yeah.
So you've got the older infants that sometimes that is their security blanket, because when you're in the environment that we're in, they can't have their blankets and their cuddlies and stuff like that because of state regs.
Yeah, right.
So, but when you have the younger infants, how do you get that comfort level in there? Because most of them sucking on a pacifier, it takes a long time because it's not something that they know how to keep in their mouths.
Right. So then you have to like use the ones where you put, right? You got to teach them how to use it. And then 3 years later, you got to teach them how to unuse it.
Yeah.
Right. Which is tricky. So then sometimes it could be like, right. Some kids just suck on your finger and you're like, well, but I'm not your mom and you can't really suck on my finger because there's germs and I've changed 1,000 diapers. And what if there's poop on my hands or something? Like, right there. So it's true though. It's true. I wouldn't want someone putting their fingers in my son's mouth when he was little. And I'm not even a germaphobe. I just was like, no, you eat your own fingers. I don't want you to put them in my son's mouth. But right, we have to just approach that. And the first piece of that is to sit with your own thoughts, for sure. And the last one is just the myths, but we're already over time, but we made it to the end. So just thinking about what are the other myths with blankies, a lot of those are, they don't need them at a certain age, right? I still have adult friends that have blankets. They still have their blankie, and when they sit on the couch to watch a movie, they still have their blankie from when they were little. Or my cousin, who's only 6 weeks older than me, has like a popple. Do you remember the popples? They like flipped inside themselves. She still has hers from when she was little. Binkies, when it's around Binkies, it's gonna be bad for your teeth, so let's get rid of them as soon as we can. But if you can't, you can't take blankets and Binkies and bottles away without replacing them with something, because you're taking the attachment comfort piece away, like Carol said, and how do you replace it? Sometimes you just have to wait for them to be old enough to understand the replacement piece. And there's nothing really you can do. Again, that's why your job's hard. And bottles, hoping that you only put formula and water in bottles, although I've been in some houses where they put Coke and milk in bottles. Like milk, and then the kid like goes to sleep and then they rot out their front teeth. I've had those kids. Oh, I know. But again, the parents just don't know what they don't know. And it's what gets the kid to bed, and they just want their kid to go to bed so they can have free time. So I get it. I get that. But it's still hard. And then how do you attack that myth without the parent feeling attacked, which is tricky, right? Infants and toddlers are tricky. Good thing they don't stay that way forever. They eventually grow up. Yay. We did it, guys.
Yay.
Woo-hoo! So all of them so far are on there. This one will be on there probably tomorrow, Carol, and then you will have them. Does there have to be, I want to ask, if they are the self-study pieces, does there have to be some sort of questionnaire or something that they fill out for it to count as self-study if someone else wants to do this?
They have to fill out the form. Like if they read an article, they
right.
still
So, but the form, do I have to make the form, or is the form already?
No,
it's just a self-study form.
Yep.
It's generic for all of it?
Yep.
Oh, okay, good. So that way they can get, right, people coming in new to you, Carol, can do this for 6 hours of self-study and you'll have it forever. So I just wanted to make sure that was the case, and that the certificates counted, right, as they moved forward, because there was they filled out a form or something.
Yep.
Yay. Look at me. That was pretty organized squirrels right there, knowing that had to happen.
Those were very organized squirrels.
I know. Okay, now they're disorganized. That was just for 1 minute that they were organized.
Good squirrels. Good squirrels.
All right. Well, have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you for being here for all 6. I know that you guys are still working, and 7 to 8 is hard every Tuesday and Thursday. But But you know what I love is that when you all came on, I think I know all of you. Whoa. My dog's crazy. Do you hear him? Holy moly. But yes, it's tricky, I think, when you guys are working, and I guess it's better than doing it for 2 hours at night at the center. At least you're in your own beds and Linda's
Right.
cozy.
Yep.
You can just turn off the light and go to sleep.
Right, just boop, and then done. Not me. My night's just beginning. I'm a night owl. I won't go to bed for another 4 or 5 hours.
I've had too much to drink. I don't know if I can get home.
Well, don't you just walk in the door? Isn't your door that way or that way?
I don't know, about what, 50 feet?
Right. My mom lives across the lawn from me too. We have the same kind of setup. Do you have different houses or same houses?
Well, it's all connected.
Oh yeah, so mine's not connected, but it's 5 giant steps away. Not even, I don't think. So I have the same situation in my house. It's like everybody loves Raymond.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah. You dork.
Minus the comedy sometimes.
Well, I have to say it was good to see Kelly, because we haven't seen Kelly. We haven't seen Bobby. I mean, it's been kind of limited. Heather's back to work for a few hours, but you know.
We only have so many kids though still, right?
We have some kids that are going to be coming back soon, so hopefully things will start coming back.
Yes, right.
Yes.
When do they open? When are you allowed to let other kids back?
As far as I know, I'm allowed to let other children back. I mean, they opened up some of the businesses.
Right.
So where are they supposed to put the children? Up their butts?
Right, exactly.
So.
Yep, they gotta go somewhere.
So we'll do our jobs.
I know. We've been doing it the whole time. I hope that we get more credit for our jobs now in childcare. I'm afraid that it's going to last a little bit and then people are going to forget again. I'm going to try really hard to not let people forget.
Yep.
And maybe we can make it up to 40 cents an hour.
Woohoo!
Woo! Yes, that's what Mass gets per hour. Yes, we get 37, they get 40.
Well, thank you everybody for participating.
Yes, thank you all for coming, and have a good weekend.
All right, you too, Meg. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
She gets us.